Well, howdy folks, welcome back to Crown of the African Ivory Trade King. Thanks to Final Deluxe for submitting that intro liner, and, thanks for making us think a little bit about the games we play and what they mean in the broader world context. It's important stuff to think about. So the last part of this delish, kind of slow, kind of meandering around outside. It's cold, it's foggy, shit sucks, it's winter, it's Christmas time, you hate Christmas. I get it from software. You hate Christmas, you hate holiday cheer, and you want us all to suffer. Fine. But it got kind of tiring after a while, but this part of the delish changes things up just a bit after this masking load time door opens. We'll see what awaits. Now the biggest atmospheric change, of course, is that we are now inside, as opposed to being outside. And frankly, there's a lot that can change when you go inside and outside. I know I feel much more comfortable inside because I do things like talk over playthroughs of Dark Souls. I feel more comfortable inside. It is my element. It is my jam. And then, of course, there's the whole, fogginess is gone. Who likes fog? Fog is good for your aesthetic of setting up the world that we're in and whatnot, but I get kind of tired of that fog after a while. And thankfully, we'll never have to deal with fog or obscured vision or anything of that sort. In this DLC, I am sure of it. Let me tell you what for, huh? Yeah. But we get a nice little break from that being now indoors. But still, I lit that bonfire. I lit that shit, bro. And actually, now that I think about it, I think last time I said I wanted to be careful not to die because I would, be transported back several bonfires, but I'm pretty sure, and granted when I go to a bonfire I typically use it, both in the game and real life. But I think in this game, as long as you light the bonfire, I think it just transports you back to the last one you lit if you do in fact come upon death. So it's actually not a particularly risky proposition, doing what I'm doing and not using any of these bonfires. And would you look at that? Attentive players may remember those golem. And a point for the comment section. Do you say golem or do you say golem? Let's talk pronunciations of things that you don't really encounter in everyday life so much. It's important. Attentive Dark Souls 2 players may remember those golems from the Drangleic Castle. But in this case, they're frozen. Can't do anything with them. Typically, in the castle, a golem, you light it up, it does something. So perhaps, if you melt that shit, it'll do a thing for you, and not be just a nuisance. Surely not. There's no way. Now again, gotta be careful. I tend to prefer these more agile characters over the tanky characters, although in my very first playthrough of this, I played as a tanky-ish cleric, cleric-y paladin sort of thing, a faith-based guy. Because that sort of build felt very safe. You can take some punishment, you can heal yourself, at the expense of being kind of slowish. But perfectly fine for a player versus everyone sort of environment. But I think... I'm sorry, I'm getting texts. I'm so popular today. Merry Christmas. But in just personal preference, I tend to prefer these kind of swift roguelikes? These roguelikes, or sometimes mages to a lesser degree. Not so much in this game, because having the finite spells, it feels like, you can eliminate your arsenal pretty quickly and then be left rather helpless. And I'm not sure why I did that edit point there, but I'm sure it was important. Now, anyway, I digress. This invader that we saw a little while back, this guy's kind of awesome. This guy gets respect from me. Very unique invader, and we'll see why. He's using a silver talisman! Now, if you're a new player to this DLC, what will most likely happen is you'll think the invader Holy Knight Orheim, you'll probably think he's somewhere further up ahead and then go about your business and open a treasure chest that you may have seen a little bit beyond that. If you do that, your point of view will be over the shoulder with the barrel guy behind you, and he'll backstab you while you're opening that chest. And that, well, might instantly kill you depending on your level. But the first time that happened to me when I was playing this, I was like, you know what? That is dick, but it gets my respect. And of course, what he was guarding was, in fact, the very tool that he used. Is that poetic justice? I don't know. What does it mean? And lo and behold, another thing I like about these delicious is that the levels kind of loop back on themselves, much like the first game consistently did. So I'm changed my loadout just a little bit. Ups my defense a little bit more. Now you'll remember last time I came in here, Ivory kicked my butt because I couldn't see. But now, well, I didn't do it yet. See? Don't think that actually hit. So this boss fight is pretty cool. Pretty cool. I dig this. And not just because I'm an Auburn Tigers fan, okay? I mean, one, the tiger is not even like red and blue. Or, I mean, sorry, orange and blue. Red. Sorry, I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide on my mind. #1 playoff seed, my butt. That's okay. They are. I mean, the ranking's down. The rank is legit, okay? But if you know, let's see, Tigers is actually a common college football mascot. So you got Auburn, you have Missouri Tigers, you have Clemson. If you're from South Carolina, you got Clemson Tigers. And that's just, you know, the D1 schools I can think of off the top of my head. There's probably D2, D3 Tigers out there. You have the Cincinnati Bengals, Bengal Tigers. If you're from the Ohio area, from Southern Ohio. There's all this, what I'm saying is Ava can appeal to a lot of people. Ava, by the way, would be a really dick Wheel of Fortune puzzle. Unless, of course, you got that A. But then, even if you got the A, I mean, you probably wouldn't guess a V, and when you were, you know, given the 3 consonants and a vowel thing, you might get an A. Yeah, if you get the A, you get most of the puzzle, but then the contestant is going to see that. Do you think the contestant played Dark Souls? I mean, I'm kind of skeptical on that. Probably not. Like, Apa? You know, really at that point, you just kind of go down the alphabet and hope for the best. What am I saying? Let's talk about the boss fight proper. This is a dodgy boss, kind of boss where, I mean, if you have a great shield, you might have a little bit more luck, but otherwise you need to get the timing of the attacks down, understand when the boss choreographs its leaps, when it does its horizontal swipes, and then when it hesitates for a second, that means he's about to do that power surge thing. And then when he goes away and does his crystal soul massy stuff, then you either block or just get hit repeatedly, as I'm wont to do. But again, the stakes of this boss fight, I gotta stress, have never been higher. But he's dead, so it's fine. But a cool boss. It's the kind of boss where it's pretty likely you'll die your first time, but it's close enough to that bonfire where if you do need to give it some chances to learn the techniques and whatnot, then it's not a big deal. It's good. It's a solid fight. I enjoy it. It'll probably take you a few attempts to get the patterns down, but it's like an enjoyable learning experience instead of like a bullshit this sucks sort of experience. Oh, sorry, PETA. I put down the king's pet. Ugh. Yikes. Now, actually, at this point, it's much like the first two Delicious. Get to that first boss, and then the next boss is not far behind. This is, in fact, the last proper area of the DLC, and by that I mean the place where the DLC will end. But, you know, only 3 parts in, there's a lot that is yet to happen. There is a lot that has yet to have happened at this juncture. Which means we ain't finishing this here. So welcome to the Grand Cathedral. So this is the place the king had commissioned to... What did that say? So I don't think little butt shit and firebolt are NPC summons, so we don't need to worry about those. But anyway, the Grand Cathedral. The king, the Ivory King, who is now the Blunt Ivory King, but formerly was just the Ivory King, he had this place commissioned because there was this simmering chaos underneath it, and so he was like, we got to appease that shit by praying to it a lot. And so, spoiler alert, that didn't work out so great. So that is the person... I'll let her...
Who are you? This land is barren. Cursed by the old chaos. It gave birth to atrocities, and the people fled in fear. Until our Lord, the Ivory King, came. My dear Lord, a most true king. It was with his magnificent soul that he built a Leon Lois and contained the spread of chaos. But the chaos would not be sated, and the king gave his own soul. Inevitably, the king was drained of vigor and plunged into the chaos's heart. The Leon Lois was frozen in time, its leader lost. I remain here to contain the chaos, honoring my lord's wishes. Perhaps one day he will return. There is nothing here save that accursed flame. I have but one wish. That my dear Lord might be freed from that unspeakable chaos. I haven't strength to help him myself, but perhaps one such as you. Though I am yet to know your name, stranger, will you lend me your strength?
Okay.
Kind visitor, I thank you. Let me open the path to chaos. And please, do all you can.
Way to be dramatic, you could have just opened the door. Jeez. Always gotta be a showman about it. And I... Oop.
Leon Lois's faithful knights followed their lord into the chaos. But not one of them returned. The king's dutiful subjects waited patiently for his own coming. But it was too long a wait to bear. The night appoint a new leader. One who will guide them into chaos. Many of Aleum
Alright, we get it. That is an important note, though. That's a little hint. Maybe we're not quite at the end as much as we could be. So check out this incomplete dais here. You have one guy just kind of hanging out. That fog gate leads to where the chaos came from. But there's 3 chairs. 3 chairs and some weird light problems. PC gaming, right? Now, there's no reason that you could not go in that gate right now and try to beat off the boss, who, I mean, it's the Ivory King. Come on. And that's also a little hint that now all the ice in the area that we've encountered previously is gone. Also, the fog is gone. And you know what that means? It means that From has created a delish so brilliant, so nice, you gotta go through it twice. And that is in fact what's going to happen. There have also been some new areas that are now available to explore. You saw that one knight who was just hanging out. Well, we gotta find his buddies. Some of them wandered off to never have returned. Well, in fact, they didn't wander that far, really. I mean, there's 3 of them just hanging out here in Elium Lois. Isn't that noise? And we are going to find them. See, this, the final boss beyond that fog gate is actually really, really awesome. One of the best boss fights, I mean, possibly the best in this entire game, just because of how different it is from the norm. You know, typically you go into a boss gate and it's a boss. Sometimes the boss has buddies, but you're, you know, by yourself. Just got your own wits about you to deal with it. So I laid down that summon sign because I only have 2 flasks left. And I don't want to use a bonfire right now because I'm going to go through the entirety of Lois again. But I really don't want to have to kill all those enemies all over again. In fact, I meant to do that here, but I failed to edit this out. So the footage is going to keep playing, so... You know, while this footage is playing, I thought, you know, I could edit it out, or I could do a little reading. I could read you all a little story, and it goes a little something like this. It's an appropriate story as we're closing out this video. Good night, bonfire. Good night, souls. Good night, cow jumping over the moles. Good night, cast light. And the red bloodstain. Good night, knights. Good night, blight. Good night, Ava. And good night, Abba. Good night, gems. And good night, hymns. Like on the armor that I'm wearing. Good night, little Lois. And good night, Ois. Good night, sword. And good night, hilt. Good night, nobody. Good night, petrified something. And good night to the old lady. Casting hush. Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere. And that is a little reading from Good Night, Souls. I hope you enjoyed that. I was hoping that would take up the entire time, but there's still, in fact, 17 seconds left, so... a little preview for next time. We're gonna go through the area again. Wow, what a teaser. Way to clickbait, Diabetus. Oh boy. Bye.